There's a light shining directly onto the stage. It isn't dazzling. It doesn't call your name. It just quietly illuminates a small space, as if waiting for someone to step forward. But you're still standing backstage. No one calls you. No one pulls you into the spotlight. And yet, you find yourself trembling. It's not the first time you've wanted to be seen, but it is the first time you've truly been seen. Not admiration, not praise for being talented, strong, or doing fine, but a gaze that cuts straight through every mask you've ever worn. Gentle as a breeze, but piercing, like someone just placed their hand on the wound you've always kept hidden. Have you ever trembled? Just because someone said, "I see you," truly. No labeling, no analysis. They simply stayed. And the strange part is, you wanted that, but when it came, you stepped back. Not because they were wrong, but because it was too real, too close, too much like what once hurt you. You remember, don't you? The first time you let someone see the real you. Maybe you cried. Perhaps you said something raw. And then, nothing. No comfort. No hug. Just silence. Or a strange look. So you pulled back, like a wave that rose, only to collapse because no shore was there to meet it. You learned how to hide, how to make yourself just enough, how not to be too much. You smiled on cue. You kept your voice soft. You never made anyone uncomfortable. You became someone likable, lovable, safe. But slowly, you stopped being yourself. And somewhere deep inside, a child is still sitting there, not demanding, not blaming you, just watching, with eyes that have never been answered, hoping someone brave enough might one day look back and say, "You're still here, and I'm not leaving." You want love, but you fear truly being seen. You want a connection, but you fear being hurt. You were once told you're too sensitive, too emotional, too complicated. You don't remember exactly when, but one day you started to believe, only if you shrink, if you dim a little, will people stay. And then you wonder, if I keep hiding, keep shrinking, who's living this life? Is there a light inside you, still waiting to step forward? Not to shine for the world, but so that you can finally see yourself, without turning away. Maybe you don't need to be saved. Maybe you just need one moment, where you don't flinch when the light arrives, because that spotlight, it isn't here to hurt you. It's here to invite you in, gently, honestly, unguarded, to be yourself, not to be understood, not to be fixed, just to be seen. You've been told you were too much. You cried too much, felt too deeply, loved too quickly, dreamed too big. You once reached out and offered something real, an innocent question, a longing gaze, a confession from the softest part of your soul. And they turned away, or worse, they laughed, they looked uncomfortable, they called you overly sensitive, too dramatic, weak. You didn't have the words to push back. You were just a child, or someone who hadn't yet learned how to protect themselves. And in that moment, what you learned wasn't how to grow up. What you learned was how to shrink. You started pulling back. Quietly, but consistently. You spoke less. You asked fewer questions. You smiled at the right time. You said what was acceptable. You learned not to make others uncomfortable, even if it meant feeling completely alone. All because of one fear, that being real would get you abandoned. Carl Jung once said, "Shame is a soul-eating emotion. Shame doesn't just make you feel wrong. It makes you want to disappear. And when you start feeling shame about who you are, you don't just lose a feeling. You lose your light. You once had a light uniquely yours. No one else had it. It was how you felt everything more deeply than others. It was the gentleness you showed toward the smallest things. It was your wild imagination that never stopped, even when the world demanded practicality. But you hid it. You hid that light, not because you wanted to, but because you once saw it drive people away. You learned to hide your light because being real once got you left behind. And then you asked yourself, if the more I show up as myself, the more I get hurt, how am I supposed to keep living? So you chose the version of you that made others comfortable, even if it left you in pain. You lived as the safe version of yourself, the easy one, the one who's fine, the one who never complains. But at night, you felt it. A part of you is crying silently, not because someone hurt you today, but because you no longer dared to live as yourself. You started to believe that only by becoming less, smaller, quieter, would you be loved. That love was a reward for those who knew how to cut off pieces of themselves, and so you became exhausted from constantly measuring if you were too much. You corrected yourself after every conversation. You apologized for crying. You said, "I'm okay," even when your heart was breaking. Then one day, maybe on an ordinary day, you saw someone else cry, and you didn't see weakness. You didn't see drama. You saw beauty. You saw the truth. And in that moment, you realized you were never weak. You were just left, right when you needed to be held. You once thought your light was something to hide. But that light, it's the way you watch the evening sky and feel peace wash over you. It's the way your eyes fill with tears when a piece of music touches something you can't even name. It's the way you sit beside someone in pain, not to explain it away, but so they won't have to be alone. You've been calling all of that too much, but the truth is, it's the gift you bring to the world. It's just, you gave it to people who didn't yet know how to receive it. That wasn't your fault, and maybe not even theirs. They just weren't ready. But you're still here. Your heart is still beating. Your light has not gone out. And the question now isn't, how do I make sure they don't leave me? It's, this time, can I be brave enough not to leave myself? Have you ever tried to shine in a room where no one was looking? Have you ever spoken something true, only to be met with silence? Have you smiled, and the person in front of you just looked right through you? Have you placed your hand over your heart, opened it gently, only to find no one was listening? At first, you thought you just weren't interesting enough. Then you figured maybe it was bad timing. And finally, you started to believe maybe you just shouldn't take up so much space. So you began to shrink. Not in a fake way, not by wearing a mask, but quietly, softly. You learned how to dim, to soften, to speak less, to stay silent just enough, to make others comfortable, to avoid making anyone uneasy with the truth inside you. You stayed kind. You stayed polite. You kept smiling at the right moments. But somehow, no one knew who you were anymore, because in a world that doesn't know how to see deeply, you felt like you had to cover your light. You became a candle cupped in your own hands, not to warn anyone, but just to protect the flame from strange winds. From the outside, you looked fine, calm, strong, mature. But inside, a quiet voice kept whispering, "Does anyone see me?" That's when the first archetype appears. The gatekeeper, the one who guards the light of your soul. The gatekeeper isn't your enemy. It was born the moment you were most deeply hurt, the moment you realized, if you lived authentically, you might lose everything. So a part of you rose to protect the door to your heart. The gatekeeper chooses carefully who gets close. They speak safe words. They always know when to smile, when to stay silent. You know they're not the real you, but wear them long enough and you start to forget who you were. And then you live that way, year after year, relationship after relationship, sitting silently in crowded rooms, and no one hears what your heart is trying to say. Until something strange happens. Someone looks at you. Not with politeness, not to judge, just a look, at the exact right moment, as if they somehow know where you've been hiding. You freeze. You want to turn away. But the door inside you opens, just a crack. It might be a quiet sentence, a song that starts to play, a dream that returns. And despite all your layers of armor, you feel yourself tremble, not because you're afraid of them, but because you don't know how to face yourself when your light is exposed. The gatekeeper wavers, uncertain whether to shut the door or let it stay ajar, because if it opens, who might walk through? And if someone walks in, are you ready? Have you ever dimmed your light because you thought, if they see all of me, they'll leave? But then, you get tired. Not tired from being hurt by others, but tired from never living in sync with your true rhythm. You hear a melody rising from somewhere beyond logic. You touch a part of yourself long forgotten. You remember, light doesn't need permission to shine. It just needs you to stop hiding it. The gatekeeper doesn't need to be destroyed, doesn't need to disappear. They were the part of you that kept you safe. But now, it's time to gently place your hand on their shoulder and whisper, "Thank you for protecting me. But today, I want to step out. Just a little. Just a little." That is the moment light no longer feels dangerous, but becomes something sacred to remember. You don't have to step into the spotlight. Just open the door of your heart, enough for the light to enter, not so others can see you, but so you can see yourself. Because if you keep waiting for the world to permit you to show up, you might be waiting forever. But if you are the first to nod at the deepest part of who you are, then from that moment forward, your light no longer needs a reason to exist. One day, you wake up, and everything begins to tremble, just slightly, not in a supernatural way. No voices from the sky, no white light, no visions flashing before your eyes, just something inside you begins to listen more closely. You think of someone, and minutes later they text you. You dream of a strange image, and the next morning it shows up on a wall along your usual street. A sequence of numbers keeps repeating. A song from long ago plays, right as you're touching something deeply personal within yourself. You don't dare tell anyone. They might laugh. You're afraid they'll call you delusional, but deep down, you know, this isn't random. A part of your soul just opened its eyes. After years of sleeping, after layers of protection and logic, now it's looking around like a newborn child seeing daylight for the first time. And with that awakening comes fear, not fear of the dark, but fear of your true light. Old voices echo in your mind. If I live authentically, who will I lose? If I stop trying to please, who will still stay? You don't say these things out loud, but you know, the bigger the truth, the greater the fear of losing everything. You feel a door inside your heart. It opens just a crack. Soft light filters in, as if your soul whispers, this is who I am. And then, you shut the door, quickly, instinctively, because old memories come rushing back. The last time you were real, someone walked away. The last time you shared the deepest part of your heart, the room went silent. The last time you gave your whole heart, you were seen as weak. Let me ask you, if you live honestly, who are you afraid of losing? You think of your mother, who once said, "Don't make such a big deal out of it." You remember an ex who said, "I don't understand you anymore." You recall someone's eyes when you cried, not comforting, just quietly stepping back. So you learned to move through the world like someone normal. Not too bright, not too small, just enough, so no one would leave again. But synchronicities, those strange little signals, keep coming, like soft knocks on the locked door of your heart. Not loud, not forceful, just steady, gentle, persistent enough that you can't ignore them anymore. You begin to wonder, am I finally waking up in my own life? Or is this still another dream where I haven't dared to be myself? And then, someone listens. You speak honestly, and they don't leave. They don't say much. They just stay. And you want to cry. Not from sadness, but because a part of you has been waiting for this for so long. Carl Jung once said, The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. It sounds simple, but the price is everything you're not. That job that made you hide your emotions. That friend you laughed with but never cried with. That role you played for so long. You forgot it was a performance. You don't have to give it all up at once. You only need a single honest moment to ask, if no one stays, do I still want to be myself? Awakening doesn't happen all at once. It comes in pieces, like tiny cracks in a wall, letting the light leak through. And each time you speak your truth, each time you laugh for real, each time you let yourself cry, that light expands a little more. But alongside that light comes the cold, the emptiness, because most of the world still doesn't see that part of you. So then ask, if no one truly sees me, then who's living this life? You might still go to work, still have friends, still get told you're easy to be around. But if you have to hide part of your soul each day, then who are they loving? The real you, or a version shaped to make sure no one feels uncomfortable? There's no rush. Awakening isn't about escaping sleep. It's about learning to open your eyes slowly, until the light no longer burns. That door in your heart, it may open and close many times. Don't force it. Just stay a little longer each time it opens. Eventually, you won't close it anymore, not because the fear disappears, but because you realize fear is no longer worth trading for the truth of your light. Sometimes, someone walks into your life, quietly, without warning. They're not breathtaking. They don't say anything profound. They don't carry a mystical glow. But when they look at you, you tremble. Not because they did anything wrong, not because they're intimidating, but because their gaze pierces right through the layers you've hidden so well. No words are spoken. No one asks, "Are you okay?" There's no hug, no pity, no analysis. Just a moment, just one look. And suddenly, you feel exposed, like you've never worn a mask at all. You want to pull back. You want to say, "I'm fine." You want to turn away, smile, and stay in control. But something is collapsing. Not your pride, not your dignity, but the wall you built from old wounds. They didn't hurt you. They just touched the part you never wanted to look at. Carl Jung called these people gatekeepers of the unconscious. They don't come to love you. They don't come to comfort you. They come to stir a memory that was never finished. You don't understand why they shake you so deeply. Why is a simple question like, "What are you thinking?" makes you want to cry. Why did the song they randomly played matches the one you listened to the day your father passed? Why the way their hand rested on your shoulder brought back an entire memory you thought was gone? You want to push them away, not because they're unsafe, but because their presence brings you face to face with a part of you that's been buried for too long. Maybe it's the feeling of being left behind as a child. Maybe it's the moment you begged someone, "Please don't go," and they left anyway. Maybe it's a tiny memory you dismissed as too small to matter. But no one forgets the deep wounds. They just lie dormant until someone quiet enough finally touches them. This person is not your soulmate, not your twin flame, not your healer. They may pass through your life quickly, but your soul called them in. They are the outer gatekeeper. You are the one who holds the light, but you're also the one who hides it. The gatekeeper is a symbol. They arrive not to rescue you, but to shine light on what you've forgotten. They don't explain, they don't try to fix you, they just look, and in that look, there is no escape. You feel touched and exposed. You feel anger, but also gratitude. You feel like you just met a part of yourself through their eyes, and you're confused. How can a stranger make me feel this much? The answer doesn't lie in them. It lies in the crack inside you, the place their light happened to reach. Some people come to love us, some come to leave us, and some come only to awaken the part we've never dared to touch. You may say you hate them, say, they hurt me. But if you pause, take a deep breath, and look closer, you'll realize they simply illuminated the place where I forgot myself. No one can walk through your door unless you open it, but some people, just by being present, help you finally see the lock. You can choose to lock it again, to retreat. Or you can breathe and open it a little more, not for them, but because you deserve to see yourself. If today someone made you feel uncomfortable, not because they insulted you, but because they saw too much of you, don't react right away. Instead, ask, what part of me are they touching that I've never dared to face? If I don't run this time, what might finally be released? Awakening isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's that moment someone makes you want to flee, and instead, you choose to stay. Stay with yourself. Stay with the memory rising to the surface. Stay with the part of your soul you once labeled too weak, too much, too old. And maybe, just maybe, the moment you don't turn away is the beginning of something you've longed for all along. To be seen, to be touched, and to no longer have to hide. There's a quiet but shattering truth. Light isn't always gentle. It can heal, but it can also make you shrink, as if someone just exposed something you weren't ready to face. We often hear, be true to yourself. The light will set you free. But no one says this part. Sometimes, when the light touches you, it doesn't just shine on the beautiful parts. It illuminates the fragments you've spent a lifetime trying to hide. You're not afraid of being seen. You're afraid of being seen. Before you've learned to love yourself, being seen is when someone looks at you with their heart. They don't analyze. They don't judge. They don't force you to rise. They just stay. Still. They let their gaze rest on you, like a breath. And in that moment, you feel seen, without being stripped bare. But being exposed, that's different. It's when the light is too strong, too sudden. It doesn't knock. It doesn't ask, are you ready? It floods in like a spotlight on a stage, while you're still backstage, unprepared. Have you ever felt that? A moment that seemed small. When someone asked a question too real, what's going on with you? And suddenly, you couldn't speak. Or a life event tears down your carefully built shell. A breakup, a loss, a rejection. And suddenly, you're laid bare, standing exposed in front of the world. It doesn't feel like intimacy. It feels like an invasion. Because light doesn't filter. It not only highlights the angles you like, it reveals the cracks, the unfinished stories. The trembling parts of you are still afraid. Light isn't cruel, but it is neutral. Wherever it touches, truth shows up. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But to walk into that privilege, you must pass through the light that offers no bargains. There is no becoming without breaking. There is no healing light that hasn't made someone want to run first. Imagine standing before a great mirror, and for the first time, it doesn't just reflect your face. It shows everything inside you, the pain you've buried, the dreams you left behind, the words you never dared to speak. You look. No one forces you. No one shames you. And still, you tremble, because you're not used to seeing yourself this fully. That's why so many people begin to doubt themselves at the start of spiritual awakening. Is something wrong with me? Why does it feel like everything is falling apart as I get more honest? Why does the closer I get to light, the more it hurts? The truth is, there's nothing wrong. You're simply shedding old skin. This isn't the part where the light comforts. This is the part where the light invites you. Will you stay, even now, when there's nowhere left to hide. In this journey, there will be moments when light doesn't soothe the wound, it activates it. When someone's gaze doesn't understand you, but reminds you just how far you've drifted from yourself, and you might think they're the ones hurting you. But what hurts is realizing how long you've abandoned yourself. The difference between being seen and being exposed. It's not about the light. It's about whether you've learned to hold yourself yet. Those who have embraced their shadows, they meet the light as a friend. But those still hiding from themselves will see light as a betrayal. And that's okay. You don't need to be fully ready. You just need to stay with the light for one more breath. Because the light didn't come to judge you. It came to say, here, there's nothing to hide. And maybe, just maybe, that will be the first moment in your life where you no longer feel the need to apologize for being exactly who you are. There's an ancient myth, not about heroes, not about warriors, but about a being who was wounded, and because of that, became someone who could guide others through their pain. His name was Chiron, not a god, not an all-powerful figure. Chiron was a centaur, half man, half horse, struck by a poisoned arrow. The wound didn't kill him, but it never healed. He carried it his whole life, a pain with no cure. And maybe, so do you. You're not broken. You're still here, but somewhere inside you, there's a place where every time it's touched, your heart tightens, and no one seems to understand why. You don't need to be fully healed to be worthy. You only need to stop running from your wound. Chiron didn't deny his pain. He didn't turn it into a trophy. He simply stayed with it. And because of that, he became a healer for many souls. That's why in psychology, Chiron is known as the wounded healer, the one who heals through what they've never fully overcome, because no one listens more deeply than the one who's known silence in the middle of the night. No one holds a trembling heart more gently than the one who's been left behind while others laughed. No one can sit beside pain without fear. Quite like the one who has lived with it long enough to stop fearing it. You don't have to rise in perfection. You don't have to be your best self. You don't need to collect enough light before you step out of the dark. You just need to stop running. Carl Jung once wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you. The wound is the doorway. The light enters there." Chiron isn't a model of getting over it. He is the symbol of living with pain in a way that gives it meaning, just like you. You don't have to erase the past. You only have to let it breathe in the present. Maybe you've said to yourself, when I'm okay again, I'll let love in. When I'm strong enough, I'll speak my truth. When the cracks are gone, I'll finally be worthy. But what if the miracle is inside the cracks themselves? Have you heard of kintsugi, the Japanese art of repairing broken pottery with gold? When a bowl breaks, they don't throw it away. They don't hide the cracks. They seal them with gold, transforming what was once broken into something one of a kind. The fracture is no longer a flaw. It becomes the place where the light leaks through. You're the same. You're not broken. You're being mended. And every scar you carry might be the very light that guides someone else home. So ask yourself, if I stop hiding, what might begin to shine from within me? Maybe it's the way you listen, softer than others, because once you longed for someone to truly hear you. Maybe it's the tenderness you offer, because you know what it feels like to be rejected. Maybe it's the way you hold someone without needing them to speak, because once you wished someone would just do that for you. Chiron doesn't teach us to heal by overcoming the wound. He teaches us to heal by living with it meaningfully. You don't need to rise above your pain to be valuable. You only need to be honest with it. That is the most honest light. Not light without scars, but light that dares to shine through the cracks. And if you still think you're not enough, remember this: Beauty doesn't lie in perfection. It lies in the fact that you keep going, even knowing you've been broken. You weren't born to be right. You were born to be real. There's no more spotlight, no background music. No one is speaking for you to listen to. There's only you and the silence. You walk through a door that seems invisible, and yet your soul recognizes it instantly. This isn't some faraway realm. It's not a place you've never been. It's the place you once left behind, yourself. And there, a child is sitting, not sad, not happy, just still. Its eyes meet yours, and in that gaze, even your most carefully crafted masks become transparent, because no one has ever looked at you like that before. Not to judge, not to understand, but simply to see. There's nothing left to prove, no answer you need to come up with, no past to explain, no future to prepare for. There is only one thing now: presence. And in that presence, the wound that once made you run is now just a soft crack, where the light can finally pass through. Carl Jung once wrote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you." And maybe now, you're starting to feel that, not through logic, but through a quiet kind of knowing. The wound doesn't need to be fixed. The sadness doesn't need to be replaced with joy. The fear doesn't need to be pushed away. All of it only needs to be here, with you. Maybe awakening isn't about reaching some higher plane. Maybe it's simply returning and staying long enough. In the room of your soul that you once abandoned, the child doesn't blame you, doesn't ask, "Why did you leave so long?" Doesn't demand that you become anything. It only asks, "This time, will you stay?" And no one else can answer that but you. There's no manual, no map, no promise from the universe. Only a whisper. If you stop running, who will you become? It's not a question meant for an answer. It's meant to be carried, like a small flame flickering quietly in your chest. You'll still feel fear. You'll still pull back on the tender days. But this time, you'll know your way home. No one else needs to see you anymore. Because now, you've started to see yourself. And this is where we close. Not with a period, but with a silence. For you to write the rest.